Right before we were starting to record, we regularly go walking. We have a lab that requires at least twice a day.
A Labrador dog.
Yes, a black lab. And as Uncle Stoney on YouTube says, every dog wants to be a lab and every lab wants to be a black lab. And so Pico is it.
Yeah, that's what we got.
But as we were walking along, we got to talking about just kind of the state of life and everything, which meant like right away, let's do a show. So this is a little more impromptu of a show that we're going to do, but it's going to be based some of on what you were describing with how we can get our priorities out of line on particularly us that are believers. If you are a God follower and an apprentice of Jesus, then a lot of times it's really easy to have other things get in the way and we lose track of what's important. And then we wonder, why is life a little chaotic or anxiety prone or no margin or whatever it can happen, right? And so there's also importance of realizing we do this in marriage too, because how we handle ourselves is what will help determine what happens with our marriage. It's just one of the truisms, I believe. I had a chance to speak this past weekend, and I opened with a statement of, I'm going to break it to you. I'm going to shoot straight with you. Your spouse is not the biggest problem in your marriage. They're not the ones keeping you from having the marriage you want. It's you. That's all you can focus on. And then when we start getting deeper, you need to start realizing, okay, so how am I living my life in line with what I say matters?
Exactly.
Right? Because as you were going through this, you were kind of going through, I got all these different times. What were you were talking about? The Proverbs where you kind of kept coming back
I think of Proverbs and Ecclesiastes, right? You get the wisdom of King Solomon. And I think of the things that I desire for, I love adventure, and I see people have an adventure and I want adventure. And I find myself working all the time. I find myself thinking about money all the time. Whereas, a lot of the people a lot of the scenarios we talk about on this show are people that think about sex all the time. Well, I think about money all the time. And
that is true.
And the security that comes with that. And how do I plan for the future? And
right.
And I think about all these things. I also think about, I don't really know what's going on with events. I need to broaden my mind. I need to read more books. And so I've got a goal this year of at least a book a month, which would be a stretch for me. And I've already done 2 this year, right? But I was driving home today and thinking, okay, I got to get my 3rd one rolling. And somehow that brought up within me, okay, I can do all these things, but it still leaves this gap. And I'm just thinking about Ecclesiastes. Yeah. And there's all this knowledge, all this wisdom, none of it really brought what really he was looking for, right? I can have wisdom, and it's good. It's good to have wisdom.
Right. It's all in how everything is in order. That when you keep the important, the other things that still matter to life, because part of what happens is things, Ecclesiastes, just a quick little backstory for the audience here at Sexy Marriage Radio. It hit us at a really opportune time, the depth and profoundness of that book, because it was right after coming out of the ministry, our marriage in complete shambles, us working to create better people and a better relationship. And so we found a Bible study, Metro Bible study here in the Metroplex on Monday nights. Tommy Nelson,
back in 1999,
was preaching through the book of Ecclesiastes. And so that was like a 6-month stint of just looking at all of that book every Monday night. And that became a life preserver for me and for us.
Yeah.
Just kind of, let's get things back in order. Yeah. Because then it makes everything else make sense. That's the beauty of it, is looking at it through the lens of, when I keep the important, the other things they still matter, but they have to be in the right order in some ways.
Right. They can create something more fun. Maybe that takes it kind of to the next level.
Right. Because I just think of,
whatever.
If you're talking about in Ecclesiastes, it just talks about when you recognize the relationship we have with God, and we keep that as the primary, then I can enjoy the wife of my youth. Then I can do the things that are enjoyable while I keep that as the priority. So it's not in the exclusion of.
I can have a good day's work and rest my head at night.
Right.
And sleep.
Right. Because there's a bigger thing we got going on. And so what we thought, as we were talking through this on the walk, we wanted to circle back to an old resource we used to have that helps the same thing happen with your marriage. It's not on a spiritual side in the sense of individually, how am I in my aligning in my walk with God, with Christ and God. It's more relationally, how are we staying in tune with each other?
Yeah, how are we aligning one together?
And this was a product we created years ago and put out called the State of Our Union. And it's since off the market. We made it as a text service. So every week you got a text and it was the same questions largely. And that was the big thing I always got was, are these the same questions every time? It's like, yeah, pretty much. Because it helps keep the important.
Right.
Because I think most of us, like you were just describing as you set this up, Pam, we get in this scenario of, well, I'll read this next book. I'll get this next tip from here. I'll get this from here. That will help with my marriage. That will help with whatever. It's like, no, there's no magic bullet out there. Mm-hmm. This is about just keeping constant flow together. And so we thought it'd be fun today to let's just walk through the State of Our Union again. Mm-hmm. So this is an episode that if you're driving, the show notes with the questions will be there. And on the extended content, we'll go into the deeper quarterly ones. And those won't be in the show notes. I'll put them in the academy on the platform.
What was it that Aaron, our pastor at church, said the other, this goes to this, are these the same questions every week? In the pasture sorry, I digress.
Yeah, I'm not following where you're going with this one.
Well, it's just that every day is not some new crazy thing, right? We're in the pasture every day.
Time in the pasture is what creates
purpose is in the pasture.
Purpose is found in the pasture.
Our purpose, and that in essence was day to day.
It's the daily things.
Normal day to day is where our purpose is and where we kind of are refined. And so having the same questions week after week, it was
we still do these almost without fail on a weekly basis.
Yeah, every Tuesday night.
It's a fairly regular, usually on a walk that we have. One of us will start and we just walk through these questions. And the power of it is it just helps keep as a forefront what's going on with each of us. Because it's relationally intended, but it's individually driven.
Yeah. Yeah. I may think there's something different that's really at work within you. And when we have this discussion, maybe I find out it's something different. And
so here's just we're just going to give it to you. Here's the questions. We'll put them on the platform so everybody can have them right there. Take them and use them. We've had, when we spoke at a retreat at a church in South Dallas, and we talked about this. Yeah. And then it was like 2 nights later, one of the couples that we know really well went on a date night. And they spent 3 hours going through these 3 questions, and they talked about how great it was. And they've done that now a couple of different times and talked about how great it was. But it's just touch points is the idea. It's on a weekly rhythm. So this is the important part of it. You need to keep it as a weekly rhythm. So you pick a time, give or take a day, and you just ask these questions to each other. And so the first question is, what are you grateful for this week? What are you grateful for that's going on right now? Right. And so our normal cadence is while we're walking, one of us will just go, what are you grateful for?
Yeah.
That's it. And that's cue for, let's go.
Let's start the chat.
And you each get a chance to talk.
And it can be anything. It's
anything at all. Absolutely.
It's not necessarily relational. This is about individual, family, whatever. Yeah.
Okay. And then the next one is, what's something that's been a struggle? Like what's a struggle for you right now? And again, it can be whatever. We've had the whole slew across the spectrum over the years of how we've answered this question.
Yeah.
It could be business related. It could be family related. It could be marriage related.
It could be spiritual related.
It could be spiritual related. Mm-hmm. It could be parenting related. Mm-hmm. It could be money related. There's a lot of different things that over the course of this, what's been a struggle?
Well, you know what it is that you're really spending your time focusing on. Yep. Where is my mind and what is diverting me? And putting words out there, number one, for you to hear yourself say it, but to share that with your spouse when that may not be something you normally share with them.
And having the invitation to actually drill down to what is my struggle? Because sometimes we're just like, God, I'm so busy. Okay. Drill into that a little bit. Why? What is it?
So back up a little bit. What is your recommendation when starting off with grateful? What are you grateful for? And I share mine. Are you looking for something? Do you recommend to the listeners, should they look for something in response from their spouse?
No.
Yeah. This is just a time for you to share. It's not a time for the spouse to respond and
it's
say,
not a conversation necessarily about the things, because again, we can talk about what we're grateful for and we can pile on.
We talk about what we're struggling with
and fix, right? Like you could share your struggle. Like, oh, well, here's what you could do.
Yeah, don't try and fix them.
And that's not the point of it at all.
Just let them verbalize it.
This is a touch point of where's my spouse right now? Where am I right now? How am I alongside them? How am I an ally? How am I being invited into something?
What you can help with is on the third question.
Right, which is?
The first two, it's just them stating where they are.
Yep.
It's not you trying to come in and do anything one way or another.
Right.
But the third one is, how can I pray for you?
Right.
And your role is solely prayer.
Yep.
That's it.
And you could do that right then and there if you wanted to. If you have a regular ritual of prayer routine, incorporate that. I try to be diligent with the things that you will say on the regular basis, particularly the ones that are the big issues that are going on right now. I know what those are. Anytime I have a thought or a prompting, I have at least a snippet of a formalized prayer. Sometimes I can go longer and more drawn out, but there's many times I'll just be driving. I wonder,
how about I pray?
Pray right now. And that's something I've gotten much more disciplined and better at than used to. But it's just those three questions. And it's every week on a regular basis. And then when we put this together as a resource once a month, 2 additional questions are added. We don't always follow this rhythm on a monthly rhythm all the time where we add in the 2 extra questions. But we probably are monthly to every 6 weeks.
Are you doing those in the regular, or are we talking about those in the extended?
Here. Okay. Because this is worth adding, because this is again, this is a great touch point of where are you in our marriage? Where are you in our relationship? And so one is, how are we being good stewards of our finances? What's your perception of how we're handling money? And it can be a self-disclosure of, yeah, I've been really weak lately, been real impulsive, I've been real stingy lately, I've been real generous, whatever it might be. It's across the board of just, where are you as you see it with our finances? So that we're not just haphazardly handling something that really is an important aspect of life. And one of the major stressors of marriage is money. And then the second one is the other major stressor oftentimes in marriage is, how are we being a good steward of our sex life? How would you quantify it? How would you qualify it? What words would you put around, how are we doing with our sex life? How do you see it? How do I see it? And this is where it can be kind of interesting, because we've got times where, just self-disclosure, we haven't seen it the same way.
Yeah. Well, on money or on sex. Yeah.
I'll tend to take the ones on sex more personal. You might tend to take the ones on money more personal. I don't know, based on the way you open the show.
No.
Okay. But this goes back to the impetus of the first 2 questions and the focus of them being, it's not time to fix this right now. This is just to get you cued into, where do they see you guys are?
Yeah.
That's good information for me to know. Because as a quick side note, there's many times, this just happened recently, that it felt like there was a little disconnect between us for me. And so I brought it up. Like, hey, feels like we've been off lately. Is that just me, or do you sense it too? And your answer was, I think it's just you. Like, okay. Yeah, good to know.
I didn't feel it.
Yeah.
Usually when something like that comes up, I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
I wasn't then, though.
But that's the reality of life sometimes, that, no, I think we're okay. Okay, I got a little tension going. Okay, well, then I need to dig into what's that about with me as I'm seeing and interacting with you. Because again, this is not stuff for each of us to work to change. This is stuff to put out in the open and own better. And then I change what I need to for in my purview and in my control. And so it's just a rhythm of having a regular touch point helps keep the important in your marriage. And so try it out. And then let us know. How did it go? Even if it's weeks before you do this, 214-7565 or feedback@sexymarriageradio.com. We would love to hear, how'd the conversation go?
Don't just do it once. Try it for a month.
Yes.
See how that rhythm goes.
And that's the power of having this repeatedly coming back to the same questions.
Yeah.
Because you start to pick up on, wow, this has been several weeks in a row. I didn't realize that was still a struggle. I thought it was done. Or man, that's a big part of life that we were grateful for, isn't it? You know, so you just kind of get an idea of how we all ebb and flow through the seasons of our year.
It's interesting too when you don't necessarily at times feel comfortable sharing something.
Yeah.
And then you get it out in the open.
Yeah.
And it can feel better.
Well, hopefully the hope and prayer with this is it really does give something tangible that's very simple, but also a lot deeper if you allow it to be. On just realizing this isn't that hard to just have 3 questions. But then the more you can do this, the more you actually get a rhythm and a connectedness to where I'm getting to see somebody that maybe I'm not reading it as cleanly. And so when we have the conversation, it clarifies some stuff. Oh, I didn't realize that was an issue. Okay, perfect. And then maybe there's something later on I could go, is there something I can do to walk alongside? Can I help unburden something like that? And then we have a chance to actually serve one another, be gracious to one another, and compliment one another. So it's a really